Have you ever found the final line from Andrew Laeddis in Shutter Island a bit strange? Which would be worse, to live as a monster or to die as a good man? In the context of the story he just remembered at the lighthouse, it sounds disproportionate. Yes, he killed his wife, but he did it in a fit of passion, driven mad by grief after she drowned their 3 children. It's a tragic, monstrous act, but it has its own terrible logic. He is a victim pushed to the absolute edge. So why does he call himself not a broken man, not an involuntary killer, but specifically a monster? The word monster implies an inherent, causeless evil. Where does this self-perception come from? What if we've been asking the wrong questions all along? What if the story told in the lighthouse isn't the bottom of the rabbit hole, but merely the second-to-last layer? What if the real, unbearable truth is so horrific that Andrew's mind created a multi-level defense system and we've only seen one of its walls? Hello, you're watching Second Take, and today we're not investigating the case of a missing patient, we're investigating the case of Andrew Laeddis himself. We're going to propose a theory that we believe doesn't just change the ending, but turns the entire film on its head, transforming it from a brilliant psychological thriller into one of the bleakest anti-war tragedies in cinema history. And that theory is this: Andrew Laeddis, a broken World War II veteran, in a fit of uncontrollable post-traumatic stress disorder, single-handedly killed his entire family, both his wife and his children. To build our theory, like true detectives, we must first find the cracks in the accepted version of events, the one Andrew voices to Dr. Colley. And the first, most obvious piece of evidence is the paradox of too much madness. The lighthouse story asks us to believe in an incredible coincidence that in one single family, 2 extreme forms of psychiatric pathology converged. On one hand, his wife Dolores' manic-depressive psychosis, which supposedly led her to murder her own children. On the other, Andrew's severe dissociative disorder, which caused him to create an entire alternate personality to escape reality. Statistically and psychologically, this is a highly improbable scenario. A far more logical and common-sense version is that there was a single source of madness in the family, one epicenter from which the destruction radiated. And that epicenter was not Dolores' fragile psyche, but Andrew's war-torn mind. This brings us to the second and most crucial piece of evidence, the war that never ended for Andrew. Martin Scorsese's film insistently, almost obsessively, shows us that Andrew Laeddis never returned from Europe. His body is here in 1954 America, but his mind is forever stuck in the frozen mud of the Dachau concentration camp. The flashbacks that torment him are not just background, not just an explanation for his hardened demeanor, they are an active, functioning mechanism of his trauma. We are not seeing memories, we are seeing re-experiencing, a key symptom of severe PTSD. He drinks to forget. He is aggressive and prone to violence. He sees enemies and conspiracies where there are none. The war taught him one thing: the world is divided into us and them, those you must protect and those you must destroy. Now imagine what happens when this mechanism, designed for survival on the battlefield, is brought into a peaceful home. On one fateful day, any common trigger, a child's loud cry, an argument with his wife, a sudden noise, could have been the match thrown into the powder keg of his mind. In a psychotic episode triggered by PTSD, he might have stopped seeing his wife and children. He might have seen enemies, a threat. Or, even more terrifying, simply targets to be eliminated, just as he did at Dachau. He was acting as a soldier, following orders. Only the battlefield and the enemies existed solely in his head.
And so the unthinkable happened. The soldier, the veteran, the war hero, the defender of his country destroyed the one thing he was supposed to protect: his family. The realization of this fact is not just a trauma, it is a nuclear explosion at the core of his identity, threatening complete and irreversible disintegration. To survive, to not dissolve into this absolute horror, Andrew's psyche performs a brilliant and monstrously complex trick. It instantly constructs a hierarchy of saving lies. Level 1. The transference of the ultimate sin. The most unbearable, most unnatural crime is the murder of innocent children. To accept this guilt is impossible. Therefore, the psyche does the first and most crucial thing. It shifts this sin onto his wife, Dolores. This transforms Andrew's senseless and insane act of violence into something with an explanation, a consequence of his wife's illness, a terrible but still domestic drama, not a war crime committed in a peaceful home. Level 2. The creation of a noble motive. After the blame for the children's deaths is placed on Dolores, Andrew's own action, killing his wife, also requires reframing. It can no longer be part of his own psychotic break. It becomes an act of revenge. Understandable, logical, and even sympathetic. He transforms from a monstrous child killer into a tragic avenger, from a perpetrator into a victim delivering justice. This narrative is much easier to bear. It's still horrific, but it doesn't shatter his identity to its foundation. Level 3. The birth of a hero. But even the role of an avenger, eternally reliving his tragedy, is too painful. It requires constant contact with the traumatic memories. Therefore, on top of this structure, the final and most durable line of defense is created: the personality of U.S. Marshal Teddy Daniels. This is no longer just a way to escape the truth, it's a way to attack it. Teddy hasn't just forgotten the past, he is actively seeking justice. He projects the remnants of his own guilt onto a fictional arsonist named Andrew Laeddis, and he turns the entire system trying to help him into a hostile conspiracy. He becomes a hero fighting the evil that, in reality, resides within himself. This theory, like a key, fits every lock Scorsese left for us. Let's re-examine the clues in light of this new version. Remember Andrew's visions. His daughter constantly appears to him saying, "You should have saved us." In the context of the lighthouse story, this sounds like a reproach for not noticing his wife's madness. But in our theory, this phrase takes on a direct and chilling meaning. You should have saved us from yourself. It is not a metaphor, it is a direct accusation from a victim to her killer. And the image of his wife. She constantly appears in his dreams and hallucinations, burnt but pleading. In one key vision, she tells him, "Let me go." If she were the guilty one, this phrase would be a plea for forgiveness. But if she is an innocent victim, the meaning changes. It is a plea from her true, untarnished image to stop using her as a shield. Let me go means stop defiling my memory with this monstrous lie. Stop turning me into a monster to save yourself. And finally, we return to where we started, to the last line. Our channel is still very young, and your support is the only thing that allows us to continue searching for hidden meanings in beloved films. So if you enjoyed this analysis, please like and subscribe. Now that we have journeyed through all the circles of hell in Andrew Laeddis' mind, his final choice is revealed in its full tragic scope. He sits on the steps with Dr. Sheehan, whom he again calls Chuck, and asks his question. In this moment, he remembers everything. Not the story from the lighthouse. He remembers the absolute, unbearable truth. To live as a monster is not just to live with the memory of killing his wife in a fit of passion. It means accepting who he really is, a veteran, a war hero who brought the war home and annihilated his family. You are a husband who not only killed his wife, but also slandered her after her death, turning her into a child killer to save your own sanity. You are the sole source of evil and destruction in your own life. To accept this is to live as a monster. And what does it mean to die as a good man? It is to make one last conscious choice. It is to choose the lobotomy, not because the treatment failed, but because it succeeded. The lobotomy, in this case, is a form of suicide. It's a way to destroy the part of the mind that knows this truth. It is a choice for eternal oblivion, so that the fictional but good personality of Teddy Daniels, or at least a pacified, empty Andrew, can exist without the knowledge of his monstrous sin. He chooses to die as a person to preserve the illusion that he was a good man. Thus, Shutter Island ceases to be a film about unraveling a conspiracy, or even about curing a patient. It becomes a profound anti-war tragedy. It shows that the deepest scar left by war is not on the body, but in the soul. That the most terrifying battlefield is the mind of a soldier who has returned home. And that sometimes the consequences of war can destroy not only enemies in a foreign land, but also the people you love most in your own home. Ashcliff Hospital is not just an island, it is a metaphor for Andrew's skull, from which there is no escape. Thank you for watching this video essay to the end. In our view, this theory gives the film even greater depth and tragedy. But what do you think? Which version of events seems most convincing to you? Share your opinion in the comments. We'd be very interested to read them. And we'll see you in the next video.